السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام ورحمة الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونشكره ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا محمدًا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من الخلق وخليله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة وكشف الله به الغمة، وما قبضه الله إليه حتى ترك الأمة المحمدية على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك ولا يحيد عنها إلا خاسر. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كلام الله عز وجل، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. فاللهم أجرني وإياكم من النار، اللهم آمين. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي الأمارة بالسوء بتقوى الله عز وجل، فهي وصية الله عز وجل للأولين والآخرين. يقول الحق عز وجل في محكم التنزيل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: ولقد وصينا الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم وإياكم أن اتقوا الله. فاللهم اجعلنا من المتقين، اللهم اجعلنا من الصالحين، اللهم اجعلنا من المصلحين، اللهم آمين يا رب العالمين. My dear brothers and sisters, respected elders and members of this beautiful masjid, I ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He will keep bestowing His mercy and blessing and guidance on us. Indeed, one of the greatest blessings on us today is that we are able to come to this beautiful gathering. This gathering of purity. And then when I say purity, I mean both the physical purity and the spiritual as well. Most of us have come today to witness this Jumu'ah, following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam by performing a ghusl. So we have purified our body. And we came over here wearing our best attire to meet and greet and testify together and collectively that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is our way to purify our heart from any act of shirk. May Allah Azza wa Jal always guide us to witness more Jumu'ah to come. Allahumma ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, I advise you and myself to fear Allah Azza wa Jal and to be mindful of the presence of Allah Azza wa Jal in every aspect of your life. As He Azza wa Jal advised the nations before us, instructed the nations before us and ourselves to fear Him when He said, indeed, we have instructed the people of the book before you and yourselves to fear Allah. May Allah Azza wa Jal write us among the fearful. A husband must fear Allah Azza wa Jal in the way he treats his wife. A wife must fear Allah Azza wa Jal in the way she treats her husband. A father must fear Allah Azza wa Jal in the way he raises up his children. The children must fear Allah Azza wa Jal in the way they deal with their parents. The uncle, the cousin, the doctor, the teacher, every single one, everywhere we go and anywhere we go, we must always make sure that Allah Azza wa Jal is watching us. May Allah Azza wa Jal write us among the muttaqeen. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. My dear brothers and sisters, the topic of today's khutbah, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, will cover something that the Muslims had invented hundreds of years ago. Hundreds of years ago, the Muslims invented something that the West today had capitalized on, and everyone is fascinated by how the West is really excelling in this area. I'm referring here to the endowment. Endowment, what's the meaning of an endowment? Endowment is when someone gives a property of his after his death or during his life, he just gives it away to other people to benefit from it. It's called an endowment. And from examples of that are the scholarships that people are taking, the students are taking. When you go to non-for-profit organizations, people, they donate their money on a yearly basis, or after their death, they leave a wasiyah instructing the heirs to give away this money to other people who are less fortunate to benefit from. Subhanallah, our children are fascinated by this concept of non-for-profit organizations. More so when it comes to scholarships, because all our children have to get good education, and education in America is expensive. So when they apply for a scholarship and they get accepted, they're so fascinated by this. And today, inshallah ta'ala, we want to, as the Arabs say, want to put the dots on the letters to see where is this concept of non-for-profit coming from. SubhanAllah, after I did an extensive research about this concept of non-for-profit, I realized that the Muslims were the ones who started this concept of non-for-profit, and they called it a unique name. They call it Waqf. Waqf. A Waqf means an endowment, that nobody can touch this money except those that I have instructed while I was alive to benefit from. Historically, the first one who made the Waqf is Sayyiduna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When a person in the year 3 of Hijrah, his name is Mukhayriq. He died and he gave this land to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave this land for the Muslims to benefit from in the year 3 of Hijrah. The second one who gave an endowment or a waqf is Sayyiduna Umar radiyallahu anhu. And from there on, the Muslims, subhanallah, they just excelled at this. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah Azza wa Jal throughout the Quran advises us, encourages us, orders us as believers to give for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, anfiqu mimma razaqnakum. O you who have believed, give, spend from what we have given you, from what we have provided for you. من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة. Before a day comes where there is no transaction, you cannot buy good deeds on that day. You cannot buy sadaqat. You cannot give that day. You can't. So Allah Azza wa Jal is advising us in the Quran, throughout the Quran. Throughout the Quran, always salat comes related to giving. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Throughout the Quran, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمَ انْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. When the son of Adam dies, all his good deeds will stop. That's it. There's an end to his good deeds. He's not producing any good deeds. He's not adding any hasanat to his record, except from 3 ways. What's the first one? Sadaqatun jariyah. An ongoing act of charity after his death. أو علم ينتفع به. Or leaving some knowledge for mankind, for humanity, for communities to benefit from. أو ولد صالح يدعو له. Or a righteous son or daughter that will constantly make dua during Jum'ah, during sujood, during a'yad. Whenever the son remembers his father or mother, he will say, Ya Allah, give them mercy. Giving charity on their behalf. Reading Quran, doing acts of charity on behalf of their parents. Otherwise, other than these 3 means of hasanat, our counter of hasanat will stop. My dear brothers and sisters, let's dive into some creative ways of the Muslims, how they were creative when it came to endowment, to awqaf. The Muslims, after they gave their zakat, they looked at their environment, their community. What does their community need? What type of endowment can we give? Listen to this waqf. Al-waqfu ala talabati al-ilm. This is when, hundreds of years ago, al-waqfu ala talabati al-ilm, an endowment for knowledge seekers, a scholarship of our days. People who would love to continue their education, but they don't have the financial means. There was a waqf, there was a fund dedicated for those who would love to continue their education, but they are poor. They go and ask for the money, and they will go on their journey of seeking knowledge. This was an endowment hundreds of years ago. الوقف على تزويج من لا تستطيع الزواج. There was an endowment dedicated for those who cannot afford to get married. I'm a poor man. I can't afford to get married. I can't afford to rent a house. I cannot afford to buy the things that I need inside the house. I go to this fund, I ask for money, they will give it to me, and I am able to open a house and get married. Something that we don't have today in our societies. الوقف على رد المنقطعين على بلادهم. There was an endowment dedicated for those who traveled and for a reason or another they cannot go back home. They lost their money, they lost their belongings. For whatever reason they cannot afford to go back home. There was an endowment that the Muslims will go and ask for in order to go back home to their families. Subhanallah. الوقف لضمان المتلفات. There was an endowment for repairing properties. Imagine this. My property got damaged for a reason or another. Could be a storm, could be someone who hit it or set it on fire, whatever reason. And if I cannot afford to repair it, there was a fund for people to apply for so that they can repair their own properties. Something that we barely have in this society. Al-Waqfu lis-Saqi. There was a waqf, an endowment to water plants around the neighborhoods. Plants in the neighborhood needed to be watered. So they hire somebody and pay that person from the waqf so that he can he can water the plant on a daily basis in the neighborhood so that there is greenery around the neighborhood. There was a waqf for that. Al-waqfu li'it'am al-hamam. There was a waqf to feed the pigeons in the neighborhood. Imagine this. I can't believe that the Muslims, our ancestors, our grandfather, they thought so broadly about the waqf and the endowment, and they broadened it up. There was a waqf. Money set aside just to feed the pigeons. Subhanallah. They fed the humans, they took care of the trees, and they also took care of the animals. Al-waqfu lil-kutub. There was a waqf, an endowment, a fund dedicated to write books. Anyone who knows how to write can get paid for writing copies of the books so that knowledge can spread in the society. What a geniosity. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless our ancestors. Al-waqfu li jumalin tuqal. There was a waqf, an endowment for specific sentences to be used in society so that people, they will elevate the language and the way they speak to each other with elegance. When you come to the Muslim society, you hear the way they speak to each other and you say, are all these people scholars? No, they're just regular people. But people, they thought of this, that we need to elevate the way people speak and talk to each other, not using a foul language, but using a language that is respected. To the point that in Al-Andalus, historians, non-Muslims, they said the one who sells the fruit on the street was able to write poetry. The seller of the fruit on the street was able to write and say poetry. That's how educated the society was. وقف لدور إيواء اليتامى واللقطاء ورعايتهم ولرعاية المقعدين والعميان والشيوخ. There was an endowment dedicated to host orphans, people with special needs, and blind and elderlies. There was a place to host these type of people who are less fortunate, to take care of them. There was a fund for this, my dear brothers and sisters. أوقاف نقطة الحليب للنساء المرضعات. There was a waqf, an endowment, a fund dedicated for women who give birth, but they have shortage of milk, they don't have enough milk. So what they do is that women who have enough milk, They can be hired to breastfeed the child who cannot have enough milk. Can you imagine this? We, the Muslims, when our wives go to the hospital and give birth, and they give us those small bottles of milk, we get so happy, mashallah, look at this. These people. No, think of our ancestors as well. Our ancestors, they were paying people to feed, to breastfeed milk for kids whom mothers don't have enough. And there was a fund for that. وَقْفٌ لِمَنْ يَقَعُ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَ زَوْجِهَا نُفُورٌ. There was a waqf, an endowment for a wife that gets into an argument with her husband and leaves, gets upset and leaves the house. They did not allow her to stay on the street. No, there was a place like a hotel style where she can stay respectfully until she and her husband can make up together and go back together. There was a fund for that. Look how society was thinking, subhanallah. And this, my dear brothers and sisters, is a message for you and I. We live in a fertile society that is ready to accept many great ideas. And our history is full of great ideas that we can copy and implement in our society. Think of one of the awqaf. Think of one of the projects, inshallah ta'ala. Start it and make it a legacy behind you. So that the people of Boston will say, this organization started in the year 2024 by a Muslim, and it was inspired by his ancestors, the Muslim ancestors. And alhamdulillah, because of this organization, we here in Boston are benefiting so much from it. Think of a project. If our ancestors, alhamdulillah, left a legacy behind them, you and I, my dear brothers and sisters, we can do the same thing. My dear brothers and sisters, I'll tell you about a group of awqaf from the country I come from, Morocco. There was a ministry that is called the Ministry of Awqaf. And from this ministry, it's considered to be the wealthiest ministries of the government. The wealthiest. Why? Because our ancestors, they left so many properties behind them as a waqf. And from the income that comes and still generated from those awqaf, majority of the ai in Morocco, they get their salaries from the awqaf. So who pays the salaries of the current imams in Morocco? Their ancestors. Imagine, I die. Hundreds of years later, I'm still paying the salary of someone that I haven't met at all. I am paying his salary. Subhanallah. What a great example of leadership. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless us. And may Allah Azza wa Jal help us to follow the footsteps of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to follow the footsteps of our Sahaba, of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to follow the footsteps of our great ancestors. Allahumma ameen ya rabbil alameen. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum fastaghfiruhu la'allaha takunu sa'ata ijaba. الحمد لله الحمد لله وكفى وصلاة وسلاما على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. سئلت أمنا عائشة رضي الله عنها عن نفقة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم جوادا وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان فهو كالريح المرسلة. When Ummuna Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given, she said he was generous. The norm is that he was generous. And he became even more generous during the month of Ramadan. How is his generosity in the month of Ramadan? فَهُوَ كَالرِّيحِ الْمُرْسَلَةِ. You know, when the wind is blowing, That's Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He gives. He gives. My dear brothers and sisters, when we look at the state of the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we turn left and right and we find brothers and sisters who are in dire need of 1 cent from us. People are looking for a seed of rice that they cannot find around. People are looking for a sip of water that they cannot find in order to stay alive. Look around you in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Left and right, north and south. Wherever you turn your head, your face, you will find that there is a group of people who's in desperate need. Today, my dear brothers and sisters, I would love to invite you, inshallah azza wa jal, to get familiar with the situation of a group of people, a nation, whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned explicitly in many ahadith. I'm referring here to the people of Yemen. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, describing the people of Yemen, describing the belief of the people of Yemen, he said, Al-Imanu Yamani, belief belonged to the people of Yemen. When they accepted Islam, they did not need a delegation of warriors to go over there. No. One Sahabi who went and invited them to Islam, and they accepted it and came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to give him bay'ah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-Imanu Yamani wal-Hikmatu Yamaniya. Belief belongs to the people of Yemen, and wisdom belongs to the people of Yemen as well. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he saw the delegation of the people of Yemen coming to him, he turned to his Sahaba and he said, Ataakum ahlul Yemen, the people of Yemen came to you. Hum araqqun nasi quluba, they have soft hearts. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved to wear garments from Yemen. The first person who made the cover for the Kaaba was a Yemeni. Let's not forget that the people of Yemen were the ones who taught the children of Ibrahim alayhi salam the language of the Quran. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless the people of Yemen. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless the people of Yemen. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward the people of Yemen. And may Allah Azza wa Jal bring prosperity to the people of Yemen. My dear brothers and sisters, Yemen, according to the United Nations, is experiencing the worst humanitarian crisis. The war has been going on for more than 10 years already. It has devastated the country. We're talking about a population of which 78% of its people don't go to school. There's no schools to go to, not enough. We're talking about 2 million orphans in Yemen. We're talking about every 10 minutes a child dies in Yemen because of lack of food. Not because of war anymore, because there is not enough food. We're talking about doctors. We're talking about teachers who have not been receiving their salaries because this side says that they are the government. The other side says they are the government. Nobody is doing the job of the government, which pushes the teachers and the doctors to go and look for an income elsewhere. Alhamdulillah, I have the honor and the great privilege to represent a great organization called Al-Ayadi Naqiyah, the Pure Hands. It's a 501c3 organization, non-for-profit organization, located here in America, alhamdulillah, and we have our branches in New York and many branches in Yemen itself. Alhamdulillah, since the inception of Pure Hands, we have poured, as of last year, $500 million in Yemen. And that is because of your generous donations. This organization really thinks outside of the box in terms of rebuilding Yemen. We're giving salaries to teachers so that they can teach and do what they excel at. We're building schools. We're taking care of orphans, building shelters for orphans and people who had lost their belongings. We're giving salaries to doctors. We are opening new projects, and one of the greatest projects that I had the honor and the privilege to be part of is Village Revival Project. What does that mean? We realize that most non-for-profit organizations go to a village or a country in need and give them sadaqah. When you give someone sadaqah, they're going to spend it, and they will be asking for another one, and another one, and another one. It's an endless game of giving. May Allah Azza wa Jal accept from everyone. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless and reward all the organizations that are doing great work. But we said, let's think about something creative, just like our ancestors. What can we do? So we came up with the idea of Village Revival Project. We go to a village. If their main source of income is about agriculture, we go, we give them training, proper training. We give them tractors. We dig in wells or build water dams to conserve the water. We give them chicken. We give them a cow, a few sheep and goats, and we train them to start becoming productive. Once that town becomes productive, that's it. They're on their own, and we move on to the next village, and the next village, and the next village. Alhamdulillah, since we started last January, alhamdulillah, we have revived few villages in Yemen. As the saying goes, لا تعطيني سمكة بل علمني كيف أصطادها. Do not give me a fish. Rather, teach me how to become a fisherman. And this is exactly what we are doing, alhamdulillah, in Yemen. How much does it cost for a project in Yemen, alhamdulillah? On average, this project proposal that we come in with, inshallah azza wa jal, it costs $41,000, $340. And that will inshallah ta'ala cover concrete tank with a capacity of 80 meter cube, and implementation of water tanks in the farms with a dimension of 5 meter by 2, installation of drip irrigation network, distribution of fruit and vegetable seeds to beneficiaries, supply of manual hand tractors, and providing a suction pump for the tank to the network. This costs $41,000, my dear brothers and sisters. And this could be under the name of the Islamic Center of Boston, inshallah azza wa jal. This can carry the name, your name. And you can give it on behalf of your mother, of your father, of your brother, a family member that you have lost, anybody inshallah ta'ala, or on behalf of yourself and your children. Today, my dear brothers and sisters, if you happen to be one of the Uthman ibn Affan of ISBCC, then come to us, inshallah ta'ala. We'll be standing in the back, inshallah ta'ala, waiting for your donation so that we can write your name, inshallah azza wa jal, as one of the pioneers of this great project of village revival in Yemen. If you can afford an entire village, Bismillah, may Allah azza wa jal reward you, and may Allah azza wa jal make it in your book of good deeds. If you cannot, maybe half of it, maybe a quarter of it, but I will urge every single one of us, inshallah ta'ala, to come collectively with a donation, a decent donation, inshallah ta'ala, so we can cover the expenses of this village, inshallah ta'ala, so that the people of Yemen can regain their iman and their hikmah. My dear brothers and sisters, we accept credit cards, debit cards, checks, gold, silver. We also accept Rolex watches. And this year only we accept Tesla cars as a donation. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward you. And may Allah Azza wa Jal bless you. Let's write history together today, inshallah ta'ala. Let's not leave the masjid except that we have sponsor this village, inshallah ta'ala, so that it can carry the name of ISBCC in Yemen. اللهم يا ربي أعط منفقا خلفا، اللهم أعط منفقا خلفا، اللهم أعط منفقا خلفا، اللهم بارك لنا في أرزاقنا وفي صحتنا وعافيتنا يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم يا ربي لا تدع لنا في جمعنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا دينا إلا قضيته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته، ولا ضالا إلا هديته، ولا فقيرا إلا أغنيته، ولا ذو حاجة من حوائج الدنيا هي لك رضا وله فيها صلاح إلا أعنته على قضائها يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. ومتعنا اللهم بأسماعنا وقواتنا وأبصارنا أبدا ما أحيتنا واجعله ما الوارث منا. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر المسلمين والمسلمات في كل مكان، اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين، اللهم انصرهم نصرا مؤزرا، اللهم انصرهم نصرا مؤزرا، اللهم انصرهم نصرا مؤزرا يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم عليك بأعدائك وأعدائهم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم انصر إخواننا في السودان، وانصر إخواننا في سوريا، وانصر إخواننا في اليمن، وانصر إخواننا في لبنان، وانصر إخواننا في كل مكان يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم عليك بالظالمين، اللهم عليك بالظالمين فإنهم لا يعجزونك. اللهم مكن للمؤمنين والمؤمنات في أرضك يا الله يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين والآخرين، وصل على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا يرحمكم الله. سووا صفوفكم فإن تسوية الصفوف من تمام الصلاة. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى، الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى. سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله، إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى. ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى. سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. ربنا ولك الحمد كثيرا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا. الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربنا. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, just a quick reminder that our donation booths are located on both exits, inshallah ta'ala. Please stop by, inshallah ta'ala. Give your brothers and sisters 5 minutes or 2 or 3